morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining from. Welcome to this amazing roundtable happening at the Rice Pico World Summit 2025. It's a brilliant day. Today is the fifth and the last day of the Rice Pico World Summit. We have had such excellent conversations, such excellent collaborations, interactions, and partnerships in the last 5 days. It's been phenomenal. And I think a lot of this credit goes to the amazing audience that have been joining us from morning till evening, till late in the night from across the world. So thank you all, you beautiful people, and thank you for being here too, for having impactful conversations. And I'm extremely glad and happy to introduce this roundtable, which talks about intersectional strategies for women in the South Asian space. And this roundtable has been brought together by a very amazing woman herself. But let me just start by talking about her company, Connexus. So, Connexus Global Ventures, which was established during the pandemic, is an international consultancy and an industry network which is dedicated to fostering growth of women-led businesses globally. Initially, it is working on the dynamic UK India business corridor, operating at the intersection of gender diversity and economic empowerment. Connexus provides a comprehensive suite of resources, including access to funding, mentorship, global networks, and affordable business tools. I think all of us women entrepreneurs will really agree that this is the need of the hour, and Connexus is doing this beautiful work of getting all these much required resources for the women entrepreneurs of South Asia. Their mission is to foster a gender balance and inclusive entrepreneurial ecosystem where economic success correlates with increased participation of women as job creators and contributors to the global economy. And I think this is phenomenal. And I can't really stop emphasizing on the fact that we need more women in the entrepreneurship ecosystems. And kudos to Connexus for taking this step in that direction. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce the curator of this roundtable, Devapriya Khanna. Devapriya is an award winning brand strategist, uh, marketer, and globally recognized voice on marketing, branding, entrepreneurship, and gender diversity. With 2 decades of marketing and leadership experience across multinational giants like Nestle, GE, ICICI, Carlsberg, Devapriya's career journey spans a remarkable arc. From shaping global strategies in corporate boardrooms to championing women entrepreneurs, as the founder and CEO of Connexus Global Ventures, she works with growth stage businesses, particularly women founded ventures, to help them accelerate uh, across borders. Sorry. Founding Connexus was a turning point, enabling her to blend profit with purpose. An executive alumni of London Business School and SET Business School at Oxford University, Divapriya also holds the Distinguished Fellowship of Chartered Institute of Marketing UK. I would also like to introduce the session chair for this roundtable, Kavita Prasad. With 2 decades of experience spanning public and private sector, Kavita is a seasoned business leader with a passion for driving economic growth, fostering a cross-border collaboration, and spearheading design thinking. Currently, Kavita operates as design thinking consultant, leveraging her expertise to mentor startups and create impactful strategies for business. She also teaches young mind as guest faculty. As a former head of FDI and Trade for South Asia at the British Deputy High Commission, India, Kavita led transformative efforts to channel foreign direct investment into the United Kingdom. She played a pivotal role in aligning India UK partnerships with societal priorities such as digital inclusion, employment, and circularity aspiration. Kavita holds postgraduate degree from Wigan and Lay and the Columbia Business School MIT Joint Program and has honed her leadership skills at institutions like IIM Ahmedabad and Darren School of Business Virginia. Um, let's have Kavita on the stream. Hi, Kavita,
Thank you.
and over to you
Hi.
for this roundtable now.
Thank you, Teresa, and thank you for that warm introduction. So when Devapriya approached me for this paddle, I didn't waste a second saying yes. You just heard her profile, and you know what a formidable woman she is. Saying no to her was never an option. Okay, that aside, why this really meant something to me, the theme that we will be discussing today, intersectional strategies for Asian women in business. You know, because I believe this is just not about representation, it is about impact. Today, Asia and more so India is at an inflection point with the growing economies, with the young population geared up for the workspace. I see a great opportunity for women to play their role. If we have to really leverage our demographic dividend, it is important for us to improve the statistics of women both at workplace and in business. That is why this kind of resonated with the work that I do. With over a decade of work in the public sector space that is helping companies achieve, economic growth between India and UK. What really mattered was why weren't women in the forefront of contributing to that economic development? So today's discussion will be focused and will emphasize the role that women can play and how we can tackle those biases, how we can come out with strategies through the experiences of this fabulous women panelists that I have today, who through their experiences of navigating the space have thrived in the space and have very effectively and efficiently contributed to economic development. A 2020 McKinsey report mentions that with involvement of women, that is having inclusive workplace would improve the productivity of a firm by 21% vis-a-vis competitors. Yet, worldwide, we only have about 19.7% women taking a seat at the global board. And in Asia, the numbers dwindle all the more. So today we have some very interesting Asian women of Asian origin and non-Asian origin who have thrived in the space and who through their stories will help us maneuver into that space of contributing to the economic development. And one of these companies, and what I realized with time is both men and women have to work in the space to contribute to it collectively. And there are organizations today coming forward to make this possible. One such organization is Connexus Global that Teresa just introduced us to. Deva Priya, who was the founder, brought this into conception to help economic development through women businesses, women-led businesses. Our first interaction, the first time we got on together, was to create a roundtable for women who did not know how to really expand beyond the Indian borders. How do we help them grow? So Devapriya's company not only focuses on supporting mentoring and training women thrive in the space of business, but also helping them meet the opportunities that the international arena has to offer. Devapriya, if you can come on, please, and talk to us about what really helped you come out with this concept of Connexus Global and how you would like to achieve the said objectives.
At the very outset, a warm welcome to everyone. Thank you to Teresa, Karen, and the Rice Pico Summit, the Rice Pico organization. This is my second time coming back to this summit, and it's always delightful to come and be part of you and create an impact. And I'm very happy that today I've been able to bring this roundtable of some exemplary, outstanding women leaders from across the world. Teresa, thank you for that interesting introduction, very humbling introduction. Kavita, thank you for setting the context, and let's dive right in. To answer your question, I'll probably just talk a little bit about Connexus initially, Kavita. As we delve into today's theme, which is intersectional strategies for Asian women in global business, we actually should celebrate the vital role women play in shaping and driving the global marketplace. And how we are doing a little bit in our own humble way to contribute to that mission. many of you have been like Sharon and um, Kavita, you yourself, Shivarti, you've been part of this journey right from the very beginning, either as an advisor or a mentor, and you've seen how we started and how we've grown. So, like Teresa mentioned, launched during the pandemic, Connexus aims to be an enabler for women in business with a special focus on the missing middle. You know, founders who have built small companies but have not yet found the essential tools needed to scale sustainably and profitably, and even globally if they so desire. And many female led businesses are now very, very keen to join the global dots across the globe. Lindsay, Sharon, Gayatri, all of us, are global entrepreneurs. We've been in touch with entrepreneurs around the world, and the world is really becoming a dot. So, selling into each other's marketplaces, connecting our networks. I think that's really how we can provide a firm footing to one another as women entrepreneurs. Um, so, to very quickly recap, during the early days of the pandemic, I came in close contact with women both in India and the UK. And I realized that many of them, actually, most of them, were facing common challenges centered around one thing, which is lack of access. That one, I would say, very critical missing link: access to the mentorship, to the funds, to the global networks that would help them leverage the online markets, which had now, the pandemic had actually gifted us, so to speak. Um, Connexus was born as an expression of my need to do something concrete for these women who were not necessarily digital entrepreneurs or born in the digital era, so to speak, but now had this whole online marketplace to navigate and didn't know how. So over the years, I would say Connexus has grown into an international advisory and industry network for women in business, very strongly supported by male allies. And like Teresa mentioned, our mission is to close the gender leadership gap in organizations as well as, but primarily in businesses. The brand we are trying to build out right now, the Lead Her brand, which Shivarti, our very, very capable legal counsel, is helping us trademark now. The leader initiatives provide access to essential tools for success, which would be the knowledge, networks, and visibility, connecting leaders from across the globe, fostering collaboration, and the sharing of best practices. And of course, like I mentioned, we believe in the power of collective action by bringing together men and supportive women and supportive allies. Our endeavor really is to create a powerful movement for lasting change. And I can go on and on forever, but I will stop now and go on with the conversation. And anybody who really wants to join our movement, wants to know how you can contribute to this, like each and every speaker today here is connected with Connexus in some way. Please feel very welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn and. My email ID and everything, and I'm very, very happy to speak. Um, so as we move on, we have Kavita. I think I mentioned briefly, but I will now mention again. Kavita and I, through the Department of Business and Trade, where she was working earlier, we organized a roundtable for a visiting delegation from the UK, and it was really successful. And since then, we've stayed in touch. It's been a common mission, and I recently invited her to become a mentor with Connexus, and she's been very supportive. As I've seen Kavita's journey, this question has come up in my mind several times. And Kavita, if it's okay with you, I will, before I hand over to you, I want to actually ask you this question and get your take on it. So, shall I?
Please, please go ahead.
Okay. So, I want to ask you, Kavita, you've balanced boardrooms and classrooms, investment deals and design thinking, global strategies and grassroots mentorship, all the while balancing weight and your love for chocolates. And I remember our conversation when we first met, and we were looking at the dessert table very longingly, and we went for it, of course, we didn't hold back. So, Kavita, tell us, which takes more resilience: navigating male dominated industries like you have, or resisting a dessert table at a networking event?
Thank you, Devapriya. Quite an interesting question. I should tell you, navigating both the male-dominated industries and the dessert table requires resilience. I think today, women of today really need that resilience. But I must confess, the ROI on a chocolate sometimes it's just too good to pass up on. It's easier to grab that piece of chocolate any day. Yeah, but coming back, I think when we talk about the male-driven industries, fortunately or unfortunately, that is where I started my industry in, and that's where I prevailed and thrived. I remember on my first job as a management trainee, I was the only woman recruited to that firm for the new department, which was a retail department. And during the briefing session, while I was introduced, the men in the room did not know what to make of me. So while the retail strategy was being discussed, I remember a senior male colleague looking around and said, "But we need a strong hand for this." I just looked around and said, "Well, it's a good thing that I have two." The room broke into laughter, but then that secured me a place at the table of the men's club. They started giving me an ear, every time I had an opinion, every time I had a business plan. I think we as women, we have to work our way through strategies, at every point and resilience to thrive in the space that we choose to be in. So be it a piece of chocolate or be it, an industry dominated by men, we need both men and women to work collectively. Having just covered my first experience, I think I left the organization having learned so much from my male allies. And today they are all great friends. And over years, we've all come together to put our head together to solve a whole lot of economic development, problems, coming up with solutions to day-to-day business challenges. So I believe that for us to thrive in an ecosystem, it is important that men and women work together collectively. We recognize that we have a place and role to play. Like the saying goes, a rising tide raises all boats. It's important that we support each other so we can all grow together. So I think it is so important a session like this where we are discussing about intersectional strategies, that we understand that it's just not for women. It is important for the men in the room as well, to become our allies and accept us as their allies, because together there's far more that we can deliver.
Very nicely said, Kavita, and thank you for answering that so candidly. Um, what I'll do now is I'll quickly introduce another, woman who is, like you said, lifting like a rising tide lifts so many boats. And this lady, though she is not Asian, but she is working in Singapore, and she's raising many boats with her efforts and with her exemplary initiatives. And she is so out there. When I met her for the first time, I was blown away by her energy. I was actually very energized, and over the years I've kept in touch with her as well. And um, that, and when we were doing this panel, I said, okay, who really would be able to share insight into, who's a global woman who would be able to share deep insight into women-led businesses in Asia. And I thought of Lindsay. And Lindsay, can we have Lindsay on the screen, please? There you are, Lindsay. Hi. Can you unmute yourself? Yeah, great to see you. And
Hi, good to
thanks
see you
with
too.
us, Lindsay. So I'll quickly introduce you as succinctly as I can, because you've got such an amazing profile. So for everyone here, Lindsay Davis, she started her career in multicultural advertising in the USA, and then was recruited by the world's leading luxury lifestyle management brand, Quintessentially, in the UK to lead global expansion into 25 countries and oversee 60 offices worldwide. And Lindsay, wearing your global hat, you had secondments in New York, in Beijing, in Shanghai, and Qatar. So, I mean, that really, really makes you very multicultural yourself. So, amazing experience. And Lindsay, you were honored on the luxury daily list of luxury women in watch because of your global impact in the luxury sector. So, Your base in luxury, now blending entrepreneurship and your career in communications, positions you as really, really being accessible, being iconic, and and I can imagine that a lot of women in your community pretty much look up to you. We'll talk a bit about what Lindsay is doing now. So, with a vision of available, accessible, and affordable healthcare for all women in Asia, Lindsay founded Femtech Association Asia in October 2021 as the region's first and largest specialist advisory and industry network for founders, professionals, and investors, with the core focus on improving women's health through technology solutions. Femtech Association Asia was a finalist in the Global Inclusion Online Forum 2022. Business Inclusivity Awards, was named the 2024 Most Empowering Femtech Organization in Asia by Innovation in Business, and is a member of the UN FPA Equity 2030 Alliance. Um, she's got a bunch of awards, list of awards. Please go to her LinkedIn profile, connect with this amazing dynamic lady, and you'll see her incredible credentials. I will just say that she's also a passionate about giving back. So she has previously served on the board of trustees for the Royal Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, RSPCA, and the Junior League of London. And she's on the advisory board for Women's Health Innovation Summit Asia. So, I mean, every time I read this, Lindsay, and it's so much, I'm blown away, and I'm so glad that you're here today, and that audience will be able to connect with you, and we'll be able to hear your perspectives on this very important topic. So, welcome to the roundtable, Lindsay.
Welcome,
Thank you
Lindsay.
very much for having me. Thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to hearing from everyone and learning as well. So it'll be a great time. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you, Lindsay. Yeah, we were just talking about Lindsay and her, how she pioneered the femtech. Speaking about tech, we have another amazing panelist today, Gayatri Panda, currently based in the UK. What really stuck with me during my conversation with her was she said climate and giving back to women is her responsibility. She said she doesn't look at it as a task, doesn't look at it as a charity, but she thought it was her responsibility. That is something that stayed with me. Welcome aboard, Gayatri, and we are so looking forward to hear your perspectives, your journey, and how you thrived, having moved from India into the UK to set up business. For those of you who do not know Gayatri, she's an entrepreneur, she's an investor and a mentor with a proven track record of scaling 5 tech and consulting companies across UK, India, the Middle East, Europe, and Australia. That's almost, I think, every continent that I can name, and the USA. She is an investor, and she has supported multiple tech ventures in UK, India, and in Dubai. And she has been a force behind innovation and growth, be it climate or tech, or bringing an intervention between tech and climate. And finance, of course. She has been a force, and she has been voicing in multiple forums. She's a published writer, and she contributes to various media platforms, bringing out her thought on what's on the frontier technology, on what could work, and also her passionate topics like climate and fintech. Gayatri also led the Indian tech industry, a vibrant community, fostering connections and opportunities in tech. She is, like I said, she is very, very passionate about empowering women, mentoring them. Okay. This is all besides being a successful entrepreneur herself. Welcome aboard, Gayatri, and I'm sure the world is waiting to watch all the new trends that you create and then help and capture them.
Thank you so much, Kavita, for having me. Thank you.
Moving on to our third speaker. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, go on.
Okay, so moving on to our third speaker, I'd like to bring on screen Shivarti Bajaj, please. So Shivarti Bajaj, who we work very closely with at Connexus, is a leading lawyer and an entrepreneur in India. She is the co-founding managing partner at RST Bajaj Global Law Firm and has been awarded with the Business World Legal Power List 40 under 40 in the year 2022 and also awarded the Business World Legal Technology Lawyer of the Year 2023. She advises extensively on and to startups and businesses both in the technology and D2C brand space, brand strategies and transactional IP enforcement, cyber law technology, M&A, and tech policy, along with corporate and commercial IP and data privacy and emerging technologies. She also deals with climate change concerns, COP28 developing laws and ESG as risk committee elements. She has also advised on development and scaling of various digital tech startups successfully and has been a very integral part and a big supporter of the Indian startup ecosystem and the growth of the Indian economic system and trajectory as a whole. Apart from her law LLB qualifications, she is a master in biotechnology, a certified qualified patent attorney and agent in India, and has also successfully completed specialization in entrepreneurship in emerging economies business from Harvard Business School. Shivarti speaks regularly at various forums and also is the author of various articles. So another stellar profile up on screen, and so happy to have you here, Shivarti. I'm just literally, at the risk of repeating myself, I'm just so honored and humbled when I look around the room today and just look at all of you with all your credentials and just can't wait to get this started.
Absolutely, Revati.
Thank
I
you.
think you hit the nail on the head. We've got a room full of very, very wonderful, accomplished, and I must say, humble women here. So I think that is really the essence of the kind of community that you're creating. I think it's a trickle down effect. It comes down from the kind of leader that you see in yourself and in a lot of people. So, I mean, it's a pleasure being connected to everybody here. Thank you, Kavita. And of course, Devapriya for creating this very warm and intellectually sound community. Lindsay, Gayatri, and I think Sharon's also here. So thank you, everyone. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shivarti. Yeah, thank you, Shivarti, and welcome aboard. Okay, moving on to our next panelist, Sharon Jandu. So I had the privilege of working with Sharon as somebody heading the leveling up operations in India that was, heading the north of England region to build the economic development around that region of UK. Is when Sharon and I first came together. We were trying to put together activities where we could support businesses of Asian origin to thrive in the UK. So it has been, good 3 years now, 4 years, Sharon, that we've known each other. And I see Sharon only going from strength to strength. So Sharon is the director of NPH, that is the Northern Powerhouse, the North of England region, the NPH Ethnic Minority Business and Policy Forum. She's the founder of the Yorkshire Asian Business Association and chair of Unity Enterprise. She also sits on the board of Unity Housing Association and is a director for Federation of Small Businesses, board member of Association of International Accountants, chair of the International Business Advisory Group, Leeds University Business School, advisory board member, Bree Bradford, and the Rendu Chintala Enterprise Ecosystem, University of Bradford. She was listed in the New Year Honours List of 2023 to receive the Order of British Empire, that is the OBE, for her contributions to international trade, and an honorary fellowship at the Leeds Trinity University, which was awarded to her in 2024. Sharon, when I was looking at what I could say about you, I thought it was better for me to read out because of the massive contribution that you had to the ecosystem, for the recognitions you received and, and for the kind of establishments that you have been a part of. Welcome aboard, Sharon, and we look forward to hearing your thoughts today.
Thank you, Kavita, and good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. And it's a real pleasure to be amongst some unbelievably incredible ladies. And yes, Kavita, we did work on it was a virtual trade mission. And actually, the purpose of the work that we do is that we bring together the diaspora, and create that commonality. But we encourage people of non-Asian backgrounds to look at trade and export. And when we worked quite closely together, Kavita, it was on and actually originally it was supposed to be one day, and it was a trade mission, a virtual trade mission with India. And it was brilliant because it wasn't just B2B, it was also looking at including education, and it was also looking at government. And one day became 5 days. And actually, the culminating day landed on International Women's Day, which was phenomenal. I think Devapriya, you were involved in that too. And the amount of traction that we got from non-Asian businesses. So we've got a very good footprint of working with the ethnic minority business community. But the traction that we get from non-Asian businesses who are thinking about India as a destination to do export is just phenomenal. And what can I say about Devapriya? I mean, what a woman. Do you know what I mean? Every time I meet her, she's doing, and I think you're getting younger as well. I think I saw you just before Christmas, so you'll have to share that secret. But we did, and it was just before COVID actually, we did a roundtable, and it was around female entrepreneurship. And Lord Billamori, and I think some of our guests have already talked about that we need good, strong male allies. And, who better than Lord Billamori, who sits in the House of Lords, he's a crossbencher. He supported our Power of Women event at the House of Lords. And it was brilliant because actually we wanted to look at internationalisation. And at that time, the high commissioners of the countries within the Indian subcontinent were females, so we managed to get them round a table. And I think it was, and Devapriya, we asked you to attend, and you talked about SMEs and that interaction and female entrepreneurship. We also had Dr. Rupinder Oberoi from the University of Delhi. She was in the UK at the time, and then our very own Anne-Marie Trevelyan. She was the Secretary of State for International Trade. So it was brilliant. It was really, really good. And I think our secret is that we use that living bridge, and it works, and that connectivity and partnership activity to really look at how can we work together and lift each other and do great business. So thank you. And I'm humbled. My God, I didn't know that you ladies existed. So more people to meet, that's what I love doing.
And I just want to say something, Sharon. That was the point where Connexus hadn't made a foray into the UK, and we were still considering what to do and how to get into the UK. And it was possible only because of Sharon and her very kind invitation. So I was telling Kavita also the other day that Kavita, Connexus owes its existence in the UK to Sharon. That's where we all began.
I mean,
And
to be fair, Devapriya, no, I think you're brilliant. You're doing a great thing. You happen to be in the UK. We met, we were blown over with what you had. You would have done it anyway. So it's all down to you. And
so kind of you. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you. Thank you very much. And there was a sentence that you said, Sharon, that my God, I didn't know all you women existed. I think that's the whole point of having these kind of conversations and getting people together. I wouldn't even say like-minded, because I'm not sure how like-minded we all are. But all I know is that we're all working towards a common mission, and we are very fiercely, boldly similar. I think all of us in many ways, in the journeys that we've had, in our aspirations and our interest to create impact and be that tide that's lifting all the boats. So it's always great when we discover this one person or these four people, and we say that, hey, I didn't know you existed, and now you're part of my world. And that's what makes it so beautiful. So I'm really, really glad that all six of us are here on this screen, and all our attendees who are here. I see so many names. Thank you for joining us. I know that you'll also be wondering where we all have been, and together we will now expand the community along with Rise and Teresa and Karen and everyone. So, Kavita, let's dive right in. I think we've got the introduction,
Thank you, Devapriya.
warm and fuzzy, and now in this backdrop, let's just talk now.
Thank you. Sharon, as a woman of Indian origin thriving in UK, championing the Asian community in the Northern Powerhouse region, empowering digital skills, and even balancing the scales of justice, is there a secret Yorkshire recipe, sauce recipe that helps you keep it all spinning and together all the time for those sweet outcomes that you have been presenting to the world?
I think the recipe is very prevalent amongst the ladies that are on the panel, and that is of determination, and that is perseverance, and actually we see no boundaries, and what I've recognized, and I'm sort of like at the start of that, but the ladies that I've got in front of me that I can see on the screen, and other people that I really admire, it's that real kind of that true grit and having a goal and not letting anybody get in between that, and actually one of the things that I often say to people, that it's only worth having if you've really fought to get it, what people that feel that life is easy or there's no challenges, a good challenge, a good fight is a good thing, because once you get there, it's absolutely fantastic. It also helps having sort of a Yorkshire background and those Punjabi roots, that genetic. And I didn't realise this, because actually up until 5 years ago, I had a bit of a corporate career, and I was very, very much more mainstream, and I'm kind of like doing my own thing. And when I started to look at India as a destination, to look at entrepreneurialism and linking in, I realised that, oh my God, everybody in India, they're all entrepreneurs. We don't do one thing, we do 10 things, and that kind of attribute doesn't really align itself to the Western culture, particularly in the UK, because they focus, and particularly if you have a corporate career, they focus on one thing. We focus on 10 or more, or however many we can do. We love spinning plates. So I think the secret is actually building strong networks, finding your tribe, finding people who are like you. As you get older, you get wiser. You realise that actually you can't change the world, but you can change yourself. You can't change people, but you can change the company that you're in. So all I do is, every day is a blast. I sit with people that I love. I do things that I enjoy. And together, we do some really good things.
Great. Thank you, Sharon. I think the point that you said, that once we start defining boundaries, that's when we restrict ourselves. It is so true that we have to be here resilient. We really need to know what we have to achieve and work around it. Okay, moving on to Lindsay. Lindsay, when we had a chat, you said something similar. You said it is so important for us to build our allies, to build a great ecosystem. And you have done some phenomenal work crafting exclusive customer experiences in the luxury brand segment, and then now to championing accessibility to femtech. If you were to dream up a must-have gadget for women in this room and women everywhere else, what would it be? Would it be, a gadget that would measure and scream loud when we are juggling way too much with us, or telling us when to stop? I think as women, this is something that we just don't know when to do.
It's a fun question for sure. I mean, I think I'll start this fun question with maybe a fun response, looking at what I focus on now, which is really women's health and the femtech industry, or female technology, the women's health industry. So reading a report by McKinsey Health Institute and the World Economic Forum, we know that for every dollar that we invest in women's health, we see a $3 return. And what does that mean? That generates the equivalent of about 137 million women in full-time positions by 2040. So already we know that if we're investing in women, even just health, forgetting, the entrepreneurship, forgetting, investing in anything else, but just health, there is actually a commercial gain. There's actually a revenue gain. There's actually improvement. So I think that inspires me a lot, in that I think often with women, we discuss women as impact, women as charitable donation, women-oriented businesses as in need of mentorship and all of these things. But actually, women are change makers in and of themselves, and investing in women whether it be in their businesses, as I mentioned, in their health or what have you. I think that is the impact. So I think when we talk about on a more fun, discussion, what that tool would look like, I think the path forward to gender equity and equality is really going to be around women's health and women's wealth. The more money that women have and are able to generate, the more decisions they can make on their own. And money does provide choice and option. In addition to that, the better health women have. So I see some sort of gadget, app, software, wearable, who knows what it is, but really looking at how are we tracking our health, learning about our health, personalizing our health, and using that to make decisions about our health. And then secondly, I would want incorporated into that some kind of financial knowledge base, some kind of financial management, something around the targets that we work for in our lifetime, because the reality is women need health and wealth to really build that gender equity. So thanks for asking me that question. And that's probably where I'd start the discussion, is the importance of women and the impact that women can make.
Thank you, Lindsay, for that lovely answer. And I agree with you. I think empowerment of women is just not a moral obligation anymore. I think women are a force to reckon. We are the change makers, and we can contribute in depth to the economic development of the small community and the nation at large. Thank you. Shivarti, now coming on to you. Okay, with your expertise in guiding through patents, policies, and growth, do you ever feel like a legal architect combined, playing a combined role of a bouncer too, building business empires while you're keeping the inspired by crowd at bay?
Kavita, I lost you. I couldn't hear you. Hello?
Am I audible, Shivarti? Hello?
Yeah.
Are we good?
Yeah, you're audible now. Yeah, you're audible now.
Yeah, great. My question to you, Shivarti, with your expertise in guiding entrepreneurs with patents, policies, and growth, do you ever feel like a legal architect combined with being a bouncer to keep away the inspired by crowd, lot of people, and then trying to build business empires?
Well, Kavita, that's kind of relevant to what we do, because, as advisors, firstly, as an entrepreneur myself, because, building and scaling a law firm is out and out a business, intellectual business, like I like to call it. So apart from that, being in a advisory position, we kind of get insights and exposure to information and visions that are at times in line with a current legal and economic ecosystem, and sometimes not. So our value proposition lies in bridging the gap where not, and where it is, of course, pushing it in the right direction. So yes, in a very big way, a lot of times, we come across startups, businesses, policies, etc., that need to be tweaked to fit into the right side of the law. And sometimes the law needs to be brought closer for a business, because sometimes the proposition is so novel that it needs to be explored in a way where the current scenario needs to catch up. And I always like to say that law follows innovation. So if innovation is the key for all businesses, then of course the legalities follow. Also, I'd like to add here that, with women entering the workspace, I mean, we'll talk more about it going forward. It has also impacted the whole policy and legal space in a very big way. So,
Yeah, thank you, Shivarti. Gayatri, coming to you. Given your expertise in funding and innovation, do you see yourself as a tech wizard or a matchmaker of the investment world?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kavita. It's a really interesting question. As both a tech entrepreneur and investor, I truly enjoy, building innovative tech products, plus investing in companies. So I understand technology, plus I understand the investment landscape. And when I'm speaking about the technology and landscape, I'm generally referring to the global landscape, given the case I do business globally. So So what I want to say that my responsibility or a job day in, day out to identify companies and assess like if they are going to be a successful technology company and seeing how I can connect them with the global investors. Plus, I do see if the company or the product is relevant for me or I'm interested. I would love to kind of invest in that companies. So, so I because it's a very interesting question when you asked. So I want to just tell you like my work is not always easy like other women or any women you talk about. So given the background, like I'm an Indian, I'm living in initially when I came to UK, there are so many challenges I had. So cultural challenges and then a skepticism, then so many rejections, so many things. I sometimes even I thought if I actually belong, so what I want to say that like we all women we have so many challenges in our like responsibility I will say in our lives like as a woman we majority of the family or care work or household whatever you call it we play a big role in homes and we have different priorities as a women and because of that sometimes we just say that hey let's give up if so many things happening so many challenges let's focus on what is our priority and we always focus and prioritize our family our child our parents our old family members to take care of them so but to be honest there are many women like today in the panel you can see there are many women so we sometimes we don't give up we just say that hey I'm not giving up I'm going to fight it. Yeah. So what here I want to highlight that I did have many challenges in the beginning of my career. And when I was speaking, I was not getting a chance to even speak up. Given the case, like, different background, different skin color, different accent, you name it. Okay. So even I was speaking, nobody was taking me seriously in the beginning. I had lots of challenges, and what I did actually, I identified many mentors. And I want to stress mentoring or mentors play a big role. I understand, we just talk about mentor, 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 but actually it helps for many women, and specifically I have seen in my life, but my career as well. So when we actually, connect with the right kind of mentors, they can be women, they can be men. It's not like that you have to just identify women. So we generally get support, we get the inspiration, they motivate us, hey, you can do it. It's not like I believe in you. You understand? And they show us like, it's doable, it's achievable. So I want to prioritize mentorship here and due to the mentors I have in my life, I have like many mentors to be honest. So because of that, whatever today I am, I'm not saying I achieved everything. Okay, there's a long way to go and we want to achieve more. So whatever today I am, because the credit goes to mentors.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gayatri. And I think there you are playing a great role of being a tech wizard and a matchmaker in the world of investments and venture capitalists. And the fact that you say that you thrive through your challenges to achieve, what you had to. And today you're willing to use those experiences to help other women thrive is remarkable. And like you rightly pointed out, I think every woman in this room today has done that in their own capacity. And kudos to you. Moving on to you, Devapriya, you seem to be wearing multiple hats as a brand and marketing consultant, as an entrepreneur, as somebody championing women in business, which effectively means you have to use both sides of your brain. Do they typically ask you for an overpay? Is there a secret time machine? How you juggle between all these roles? Devapriya, you're not audible. You have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I was speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you hear me now? Okay, all good? Okay. Yeah,
Yes, please go. Yes.
interesting, Kavita. Yeah, I was just saying that my brain isn't asking for overtime pay. In fact, I think it's demanding a raise and a corner office. So, yeah, but and honestly, that's how I feel at times. But But I think in reality, your question, Kavita, touches on something deeply ingrained in the way women primarily operate. And I would say, especially Asian women in global business. And it's this, your question has been very well contextualized by Gayatri just before this. I think we're raised in cultures that celebrate resilience. It's a badge of honor to say you're multitasking and you're problem solving, and you've always got that cape on. No one's asking us to be super women, but we kind of take it on ourselves. It's a mandate, and the more we do it, the more people expect us to do it, and there's no boundaries, there's no stopping. And very often, the acknowledgement, especially by ourselves, about the invisible labor that comes with it is just sort of brushed away or not even looked at, right? So, yes, women tend to micromanage, not because we want to, but because we've been conditioned to take responsibility for, what I would say is the big picture and the minute details. I mean, isn't that right? So we have that vision, but we're bogged down in the minute details as well. And with so many balls up in the air, you don't have the flexibility of dropping anyone. Um, there you go. Whether it's running a business, managing a brand, leading an organization, on the work front, we often carry an intersectional burden, and navigating gender biases, not just as an entrepreneur. Even when I was in the corporate world, it was just out there. It was that elephant in the room, the gender bias that one had to navigate. And now, in the cultural context, if you're a minority ethnic woman in a foreign country, then there are cultural expectations. There are microaggressions at every level, whether you call it out or not, whether you acknowledge it or not. It is out there, and especially those of you or those of us who have been um, an ethnic minority building businesses overseas or living overseas and trying to build a life overseas. Um, then there are the economic pressures of scaling business across borders. So it, it it becomes a lot, and I'm not even bringing in the mom, the daughter, the wife aspect into this at all, and even maintaining a social setup. So I'm not even talking about the personal aspects, but they are there. That's the whole backdrop, right? That's the backdrop, as Gayatri said. If we have to pick and choose, we will pick that backdrop every time over what we do in the work front. It's great if we can balance everything. uh, Many of us do, but I won't say we can do it every time. So I would say that while I don't have a secret time machine, um, I do have something that I've actively worked on, and that's a mindset shift. And that's something that I've told myself, and I worked on it. It's not come overnight, but I worked on it to say that, look, I want this as well as that. I'm not talking about work life balance. I'm talking about work life integration. I want the best of both worlds or all worlds. I want it all, but I don't know if I can have it at the same time. So let me work on myself. Let me shift my mindset from being a victim, being, complaining, talking about lack, to talking about abundance, talking about possibility, and really talking about, okay, let's sit down and see how we can make this happen. How I can make it happen for me. And the key really has been moving from micromanagement to micro leadership. It's a very interesting shift and concept that I've sort of come up, stumbled upon, and I've honed now to trusting teams, building systems, focusing on impact rather than control, and it's worked. Like, even if you look around the room, just see the kind of people you are, the kind of leaders you are, and we're all having this conversation together, right? And that's how we break cycles that limit us, and instead, contribute to sustainable economic growth. So we're not letting this our challenges limit us. We're help using that to contribute, to grow, and to help others grow. So you know um, so I would say that no, my brain doesn't get overtime pay, but what it does get is the opportunity to build, to impact and to redefine leadership, not just for myself, but for the next generation of women leaders. So that's what is the outcome of all of this.
Thank you, Devapriya. Absolutely. I think it is about finding a purpose and doing what we can to impact the outcomes. While Lindsay, while we chatted, talking about femtech, you did mention how women of today lack, or even the men together as an ecosystem, we lack enough awareness about menopausal women or women in the perimenopausal phase. So that's where femtech really becomes important, because there are changes that women go through, and that is when allies are really important. And that is when we need to be building ecosystems that support us and help us thrive. So though a few of us have learned to overcome our limitations, we've learned to redefine, how we would like to pursue our next target. You have been across diverse industries, countries, and cultures. I'm sure that was challenging. So what have been your key learnings about navigating multicultural environments where you have shaped leadership styles and approach? And coming to the second part of my question, what structure and policy level interventions would you prioritize to promote diversity and inclusion in leadership and innovation?
It's a huge question. It's a big question. The first thing that comes to mind anytime I think we talk about diversity, equity, inclusion. Obviously, this is coming from an American, but also a British American. So we have that UK in common, Sharon and Devapriya as well. But I think it's looking at the fact that we are opening the dialogue and we're creating spaces like this where we can discuss this. So let's start about the topic. You mentioned women's health. So maybe to set a little bit of a scene there. We, along Femtech Association Asia, my organization, alongside a market research firm here in Singapore, where I'm based, we ran a report called Insights into the Femtech Landscape in Southeast Asia. This report looked at 6 countries in Southeast Asia, and we found, interviewing 1,000 women in each of those countries, that 52% of women in Southeast Asia feel it's culturally unacceptable to discuss women's health issues in public. And very unfortunately, that is due to fear of judgment or shame. So even starting on like a fundamental level, if we can't have these hard discussions, these awkward discussions, and it can't be in a vacuum, like you said, we need it with our allies, and we need to have everyone taking part in these discussions. So the first thing I want to do is just set the stage around when we talk about, global culture or integrating among cultures, or, I've managed 60 different offices around the world, 500 people, all different stages of business. It was a franchise. I think I look at, one, having a dialogue and an open dialogue, which is obviously my background as a managing director for the business. And secondly, looking at building trust. And building trust needs to be, managed in many different ways. How people process information can be different. How people make decisions, whether by country or by individual corporate, office, can be different. How people manage, how feedback is given. So I think that we really do need to be aware of different cultures and not just come in from kind of the one perspective, of course. But moreover, I think as leaders, one thing that is incredible that I've witnessed anecdotally among women leaders, such as these women on this call that I really admire, is really their ability to kind of listen as well as they lead, to take on board what's happening around them and really lead with intent, with impact, with not only a service, leadership quality, but also kind of that ownership mindset of getting things done. And one thing I just did want to call out was Gayatri earlier, I thought, made a wonderful comment around the importance of incredible mentors. And so something that I know has been really important to me, along with reading a lot, is taking that mentorship concept and making sure that, and finding also those sponsors, the people who not only help us and guide us, but people who will bring up our name when we're not in the room, and people who will say, you know what, I can see you're having a problem with this. I know someone who can help you. So I loved what she said about mentorship. And I'm sure moving that one step past it, it's who can we find who can champion us, but who can we find that we can champion? Because we really need to, complete this cycle of learning. So I know I have a few tangents there around opening the dialogue, around being culturally aware and really, investing ourselves in that. And a great book on that, a really easy read, is Erin Mayer's The Culture Map. Highly recommend. Really easy read, a fun read, but also very insightful once you start seeing it put into action. And then thirdly, I think around it is, that concept of building trust and building relationships, which is around the mentorship, the sponsorship, and the championship. So thank you so much for asking that really thoughtful question. Too big for me to handle, but Lord knows if you give me a microphone, it's like bad karaoke and I'll never give the microphone back. So please feel free to chat with the next person.
Yeah, thank you, Lindsay. I'd like to come back to the second part of the question. What kind of structural and policy interventions would you prioritize to promote diversity and inclusion leadership? You having straddled across so many continents, and if they have been learnings or if you have come across policies that really supported the cause.
Yeah, I think the first, there are two that I think of, and I'm going to be really quick because I've had the microphone long enough. But the first one that I want to talk about is we have to lead from the ground up sometimes, such as what we're doing in the femtech industry. Actually, our founders are working with the consumers directly to move upwards and then integrate governments, MNCs, big pharma, all these other companies. So I think with that, how are we developing the next generation of leaders? And I think that comes not only from recruitment and making sure that we have a very aware policies and strategies for how we're recruiting, but also making sure that internally we are developing the next generation of leaders who, if they don't have those expertise, that quality, that skill, how are we making sure we're upskilling those individuals to get that opportunity? So we're not continuing to just, bring in the same people with the same leadership styles, the same personalities, the same experience, whatever that sameness is. The second thing is on a more narrow field, and that's around employee ERGs, so employee resource groups. I really believe strongly in companies that have spaces that are safe spaces where people can connect and discuss. What I will say, though, is that often these are either non-promotable work or they are unpaid and unsponsored. So I think the second part here is I do believe in smaller scale, safe spaces and inclusive spaces where people can talk about their personal experiences and also share and other people can learn from them, but making sure that these are funded and rewarded for the effort that goes into the leaders taking this on. So again, this goes back to women not working for free and not being expected to work for free. So those are a couple of things that I think when it comes to policy, strong recruitment policy, and making sure that we are actually funding and rewarding initiatives for company growth and inclusivity.
Thank you, Lindsay. That's a very interesting perspective. Now going on to Gayatri, in continuation to what Lindsay just was saying, you are in the tech space yourself, okay? And with the rapid advancements of data and AI, how do you see technology driving the next decade? Do you see it as a male forte? Is there space for women in the tech ecosystem? And could you share some examples of how we can bring synergies through technology, to address the intersectional strategies?
I'm glad you asked this question. Just like few days before, I was kind of discussing with one of my mentors, like who is actually a well-known figure in the tech industry. So the discussion was like how AI it's going to be unstoppable now. How things will change, like the complete if we kind of think in 5 years or maybe even less than that, maybe in 2 years, things will completely change. So we are discussing on that. And to answer to your question, yes, many times tech has been associated with men. Tech is a male-dominated industry, and women generally, which I don't agree. Okay, women generally considered quite slow in technology, or maybe people say that women are a bit behind in tech. In my opinion, it's a very cultural or a behavioral thing. Because like we say, women are not good with numbers. And many women say that, proudly. To my surprise, if you talk to some of the women, they will just, say that, hey, I'm not good in numbers, and they proudly say that. You understand, women. And it's quite surprising for me, though. So I believe that we say women are not good in numbers. Many women say that, and we all know the truth that there is no inherent difference in ability between like men and women when it comes to tech or numbers. Both genders have the potential to excel equally. That we all know that, However, societal factors and like education opportunities influence the field. Tech is very demanding field. We all know. So if you are into tech, you have to learn, you have to continuously update, a kind of upgrade your skills. It's quite very, very demanding. Yeah. And while we have a kind of growing, like a large number of women now in India, they are into tech, but the majority of the women, they prioritize family over any kind of demanding career. So there it is, like, we're not surprised though. So women tend to work in the field which is more aligning with their kind of priorities. Like, they can focus on their family, they can focus on their kids. So that way they work on the field, and they generally kind of, prioritize that kind of a job that actually going to aligning rather than distracting them from their responsibilities. So what I want to say, I want to add one line here. Women are not slow when it comes to tech. We just have some different priorities. So let me give my example. Even in fact, Kavita, I was giving the same example when we are discussing, because I think that this example anyone can relate, and I just keep giving the same example. Although I'm working in many technology kind of product, and I work with the client, they work on very complex like fintech products. I understand all the product and stuff. But if you ask me about the iPhone setting, I have no clue. New iPhone I just bought, and honestly, I'm just struggling how to add a SIM, how I'm going to do things. Okay. So what I want to say that, so sometimes when we are juggling with so many things, right? Like we have like our work responsibilities, family responsibility, specifically as an Indian, you have some kind of cultural expectations from you. So when we are struggling with so many things, like not struggling means juggling with so many things. So generally we prioritize things which we think is the top priority for us. For me, my work is the top priority, my family is the top priority. So then I'm not going to pay attention that much, what's happening in the new iPhone, or how can I do the setting, how can I do these kind of things, or change stuff in the settings in iPhone or maybe laptop, whatever you call it. And generally, people say that, hey, women, let me help you. Men generally I have seen, they say that, hey, okay, maybe you don't know, let me help you. So what I want to say that it's all about the prioritizing things. And now we are at a critical stage, specifically in 2025. I want to say that every minute something is happening due to the technology, as well as political, social, economic things, in US, in UK, globally, everywhere, something happening. And what I want to say that, so specifically in this tech world, soon there will be so many changes will be coming. The work currently, the space, the office space or the workspace we discussing, that will change soon, maybe within down the line 2 years or maybe 5 years. So now, and even in fact, when I was at the World Economy Forum, I connected with some of the good kind of big tech company CEOs, and they are planning to implement AI agent. They already developed some of the product and stuff. They're now planning how they can implement that. So even I was reading a report, they're saying that the IT department of technology companies, sorry, not technology, any companies, okay, IT department of any company, that will be the HR department for the AI agent. Like that way it's going to it's going to change the entire industry. And HubSpot, entity data, they already built the AI agent. They're just planning to launch that product. So what I want to say that, specifically in the context of women, if women are not given the training, if women don't have the access to the learning program, like where they can develop the relevant skill, we will just go back to 50 years back behind. Just thinking of it is giving me shivers, honestly. So it's basically, it's a call to action is that all the private sectors, NGOs, even I will say government, like all the actors, we need to work together. How can we provide the training? How can we provide a platform where women can actually get the, train themselves, learn the relevant skills. So also, as I said, mentorship is key because so women generally, many like if you see some examples of the women, they're struggling or they're not thriving on certain things, or they're not achieving certain things because they lack the clarity, or sometimes they don't see it's doable. So when you have mentors, you see that they are achieving things. You see that within the limits, like I can actually achieve it, because if that person can do this, why can't I? And when I'm saying mentor, I'm referring to both women and men. I'm not saying only women mentor. So what I want to say here, if you don't believe in something is possible, you unlikely to achieve that, and that's where the mentorship. Yeah, thank you.
Really, sir. Thank you, Gayatri. And I so believe what you're saying. For us to be able to leverage our demographic, dividend, it is important that we are all skilled, be it men or women. And it is important that we learn that each of us have a role to play in economic development, in our personal development. So the onus is really on us to make that, to take that step, to upskill ourselves. And yes, as people in the industries with the circles of influence, to help elevate those policies, those platforms that can really make this possible for more women. Thank you, Gayatri. And Sharon, coming to you. You have championed the public-private partnership to support vulnerable communities and to drive international trade. Based on your experience, what are the key challenges that you have encountered or observed that hinder Asian women from stepping into leadership roles or expanding their businesses internationally?
Sure. I think a lot of those challenges and barriers have already been mentioned, whether it's around confidence, whether it's around access to social capital, whether it's, around access to finance, or access to sort of like, people who are like them. That's already been mentioned. And I think, in terms of, are there differences between Asian women and non-Asian women? I think there is a cultural barrier, and I think that's more of a mindset thing. I don't know what it's like in India, but I do know in the UK that the Asian community is absolutely smashing it in the UK. The women are just phenomenal, in terms of, what they're achieving with that right guidance and that right support. However, we do have vulnerable communities, the ladies that don't have access to a good platform or a good network, or access to social capital, or access to funding, or know-how, or mentoring that's been mentioned as well. And what happens is that you have networks that establish. So I have my own network, which started off as the Yorkshire Asian Business Association, and we did a lot of work with empowering women throughout that. So even though the network, the membership organisation, was for anybody that aligned itself with being an Asian, they became part of that network. We did a lot of work where we worked with women, whether it was sort of like, organising events or networking or mentoring, but we never delivered them ourselves. We've always had a strategy where we worked in partnership, and we've included other organisations. You will notice that our brand has changed from Asian to becoming ethnic minority, because actually, we wanted to be more inclusive as well, and Asian in the UK isn't inclusive. So that's why our brand is ethnic minority, and anybody that identifies with being an ethnic minority business is somebody that joins our network. We also have people that are not of ethnic minority background that join our organisation because they want access to, and they want to be part of, or they feel that they want, to be part of that community, because we do cultural events, we do multi-faith events, because a lot of our network is based around values, it's based around support, and based around how do we lift other people. And I think the point that I'm getting to is the fact that the UK government has realised that a lot needs to be done in terms of female entrepreneurship. So you will know that last year, for the very first time, we've got a female chancellor. So Rachel Reeves is, and actually she's a Leeds girl. So she's a fellow citizen of the place where I was born in Leeds, the the Punjab of the UK, beautiful, beautiful area. And what she has done is really champion the fact that we need to do more. You know, we talk a lot about, you know, that whole thing around equality, that whole thing around, you know, leveling that playing field. And you know what? We've been talking about it for years and years. But what's going to be the game changer? The game changer is us. And I think the biggest barrier is mindset. And the biggest barrier is allowing yourself to say that, you know what, I can do this. So and actually nobody other than that person, you know, you yourself can change that. Nobody can do that. But what we've been doing is been working in partnership with lots of different organisations. And one in particular is an organisation called Lifted Ventures. And it is, as the name suggests, which is a big sort of like movement that was started actually by the Cabinet Office with some really powerful female entrepreneurs. I'm part of the Leeds branch, and that's led by a lady called Sandra Moore, and she's just been awarded an MBA for MBE for her work that she's been doing around female entrepreneurship. She runs a tech company herself, and it's funny because when you hear her story, she could have been Asian, you know, in terms of the barriers and some of the challenges, family, you know, partner, you know, children, community. So I think the commonality is the fact that, you know, as women, depending on, you know, where you're born or depending on class, depending on privileges, sometimes the barriers are the same. But creating a safe space, but creating an environment where you've got good workshops, you've got quality mentoring, you've got a facility where people are allowed, you know, to think and allowed to be vulnerable. Do you know what? Nobody's superwoman. You know, we have bad hair days, we have good hair days, you know, but what I love about the Lifted project is, as it says, it's lifted, it's lifting other women. So if you're in a good place and you see somebody else that's in a space of vulnerability or they need that support, you know, and it could even be they just need that good word, or they just need, you know what, this is how I did it, sharing, you know, sharing ideas, sharing strategy, you know, or they need money. You know, sometimes they just say, do you know what, I need some money. So that whole thing around, you know, crowdfunding or different access to finance and knowledge, because that's the other thing as well that we found with female entrepreneurs. They just don't know, you know, when they're thinking about it being investor ready, it's a different language, you know, it's a different kind of experience. So creating, you know, an environment where people are with women, you know, so they feel comfortable enough to say, do you know what, I actually don't know what they're talking about. Where do I start? So creating that blueprint is something that we've done, and I'm really pleased that, you know, it's part of the UK government's agenda. So what we've tried to do is that rather than create our own, we then become part of a bigger movement. And then because actually it's a success for everybody. And just an example of that is that just before Christmas, Lifted, and I sit on the board for Leeds, they organised an event just before Christmas. And it was great, you know, it was in a lovely snazzy wine bar just before Christmas and really nice, loads of women. And Sandra and Natalie's from Lloyds Bank. Lloyds Bank is one of the sponsors. And they came to me and they said, you know, Sharon, we'd really love to get more ethnic minority women, you know, to come along to this. I said, well, you know, you might want to start about the location. I said, well, what do you mean? I said, one is in the city centre. And number two, you've done it in a wine bar. Because some of our members, they don't drink, they don't want to be around alcohol, you know, for whatever reason, you know, whether it's cultural or they don't feel comfortable being around that. So they said, oh my God, we didn't realise that would be a barrier. So after Christmas, in fact, on Monday, we organised a joint, you know, our event with our community and Lifted, you know, because we don't, again, it's about inclusivity. We don't just want events for Asian women or black women or white women. We want events for women, people to come together, and men come along as well, men champions. And honestly, God, you can see it on social media. And actually women at different stages in their growth cycle. Because, in fact, it was funny because one of the ladies that came, she's on the real start of her entrepreneurial journey. And I invited her, in fact, invited quite a few of the ladies there. And they say, Sharon, oh my God, we're amongst big people. I said, yeah, we're amongst big people. Because actually, you want to know where's your goal? You know, what does good look like? And actually, when you hear those stories from those women, I said, they're like yours. You can hear how they overcome those challenges. Just sharing those experiences, having those networks, creating a membership organisation or being part of something where you feel comfortable. And I think it was Gayatri that you talked about it, belonging. belonging is a really powerful thing. I mean, I was at an event, and I'm old enough now where I'm not bothered, if nobody talks to me. And I do a lot of the observing. And and actually I was the first person there because I like to be early. And I was shocked actually that, a group of people came in, and actually they happened to be women. It wasn't a women's event. And they didn't notice that I was on my own, even though it was a part of that event. They went and they stood in another corner, and I thought, my God, that's shocking, because I go out of my way. If I see somebody on their own, I'll say, oh my God, welcome. You create that environment where you belong. And actually what I did was I made them reflect, so one of them sort of like noticed and came over, and I said, well, thanks, I'm glad that you've noticed me now. Oh, what do you mean? I said, well, I was here on my own. Only because if it was a younger person and somebody that didn't know, that actually the first thing you should do is make a beeline for somebody if they're on their own. Because we've all been there. We've all been in that situation where you think, oh my God, who can I talk to? I absolutely know nobody. But actually, if we go with a mindset that we're going to make friends and we're going to bring people and make them feel that they belong, that's the first step. So, yeah, no, I'm really passionate about it, and I'm really great that the UK government is really, really pleased and really getting behind this campaign. And we're getting behind other membership organisations to help lift women. Because actually, and it's really good, Lindsay, to hear about wearables and health, because isn't it funny? A lot of health development is developed by men. It should be actually, created by us, because who better than us to understand what our health issues are? And the other thing around, I used to work for a big tech company in a BD role, and the CEO at the time was Claire Barkley. She's now gone on to do other things. Incredibly wonderful, amazing woman. And actually, tech has been a real leveler for women. Moving away from 9 to 5, moving to that kind of flexibility and being able, and that capability, and like you say, that whole, that AI explosion. It's a great thing for women, to be honest. I'll stop now, Kavita. As you know, I'll never stop talking.
Thank you, Sharon. Your very, very interesting perspectives of how a woman can lead another one to actually open up a story and build a community and an ecosystem that can build each other up. Moving on to our next speaker, Shivarti, you have been an advocate, advocating in the tech space as well, as part of the startup advisory, IP, D2C, and currently, as India is now also dabbling with the new data protection laws. Okay, what are the challenges that you think women founders face, and how do you think the new Data Protection Act can actually support Indian entrepreneurs in the emerging economies?
Right. Kavita, basically what I'll just I understand we are all short on time and, we need to wrap up. So I'll quickly just, put it in 2 lines that with the advent of technology, we have a lot of women here who are very closely working on tech and tech products and in the tech ecosystem. So with the advent of the Personal Data Protection Act in India, this is providing a lot of benefits to not only women and children per se for protecting their data, but also towards human beings as a whole. So it is there to really bolster up the ecosystem in India for technology products and startups, etc. And, as we also saw in the budget today, that a lot of push has been given to the same. And secondly, in terms of your other emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, etc., like Gayatri was also speaking, and Coslin says very, very closely working with the tech ecosystem. So this is where a lot of shift will happen. And I will reserve my comments on the gender-based views of it because that has been long discussed in the panel past 90 minutes. But yes, I would like to say that with the advent of AI, the whole ecosystem and technology also as a whole, the beauty of the ecosystem is that it becomes very gender neutral when technology is involved, because it's more about your intellectual well-being and your intellectual contribution to the ecosystem than gender. In fact, on the contrary, I believe technology is one of the biggest tools to make the ecosystem more gender neutral, and it is one of the biggest tools that more women are able to enter this ecosystem. Because for a simple example, like to conduct a session like this, for a lot of women, it will be very difficult to leave physically their premise to attend it due to multiple responsibilities vis-a-vis a man. But with the advent of such a simple thing as a video call, it has very, very much enabled women to be a greater part of the ecosystem. And I think that is where the biggest contribution of this technology lies. Of
Thank
course,
you,
we're
Shivarti.
building amazing products and doing amazing things. So because I always say intellect is gender neutral. So intellect doesn't know genders. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think
IQ is God's gift. It's not gender based. Yes.
Absolutely. And I think the need to protect it, be it male or female and how we use it, is so important in today's society because we are all waiting and quite eager and anxious to surge forward. And in that journey, while we need people backing us and supporting us, it is so imperative that we take help of technology. We use it to our advantage to make those next giant leap steps. Okay, we are running short of time, so I'm going to pose one question for each of you all to come back with your thoughts on. Okay, in this context of intersectionality, okay, in your minds, what's the first thing that comes to your mind that could be a powerful tool to mitigate the issues that today women can face? If you can just sum it up in a line or two, through the line of work that you do, what is the best strategy that you would advocate to mitigate the intersectionality? Can we start with Devipriya?
Yeah, sure. I think all the speakers have done an exceptional job of actually answering this in their own way, whether it's Lindsay and Gayatri who've spoken about mentorship, Shivati who's spoken about technology, and Sharon has spoken about empathy and inclusion. I would just like to sum it up by saying that, if inclusion were just about having a seat at the table, we would have solved it by now. In my mind, the real challenge is ensuring that seat comes with a voice and that the voice is heard. So, inclusion in global business is really not rocket science. I feel it's people science. And if you specifically ask about our line of work, I would say that at Connexus, we're basically matchmakers between talented women and massive opportunities. And I'd like to sum it up like that.
Thank you, deeply. Gayatri?
Sorry. So, my conclusion is I think nowadays, gone are the days when only technology-led companies were using the technology. Okay, nowadays, any company you name it, they're using technology. Without technology, it's kind of difficult to run a business. Specifically, as other panel members said, like it's an opportunity. AI or technology, it's a big opportunity for women. So I see women can actually use, and specifically if you having a business in India, and we have like so many accessible technology in India, which women can implement for their business. Let's talk about lead generation, or maybe, outsourcing marketing or the social media or the content completely to the technology. So we have a big opportunity here. However, we too have some challenges here, specifically when it comes to women. As I already said, like we have other priorities. We sometimes, if we talk about like 10 years before, 20 years before, if you want to thrive, you used to learn something new. But if you want to just survive, you say, yeah, I'm fine. I know this skill. I know this particular thing. I will continue with that. Nobody is going to fire me. But if I want to thrive, I want a promotion or something, I need to develop this skill. But now things have changed completely. We should have an open mind. Learning should be critical at this era, and to survive you need learning. To thrive you have to go maybe extra 10x more on other things. So we should have an open mind about change now, and we should be prioritizing learning at this era. Thank you.
Thank you, Gayatri. Lindsay?
Great. I mean, again, as Sharon said earlier, we've talked about a lot of these things, and it's bringing it to the forefront. So the first thing is looking at a multi-stakeholder. This isn't going to be solved just by founders. This isn't going to be solved just by investors. This isn't going to be solved only by tech or only by MNCs or only by whatever it is in the femtech space. So I think it really is that multi-stakeholder approach with a lot of collaboration and creative partnerships, because I think now more and more we're having to find more creative ways to work together, especially as maybe in the year ahead, perhaps in the year ahead, we're going to see budgets shrink a little bit. Totally agree with, Gayatri looking at education and awareness being critical, education and awareness of our consumers, also of our investors, also of our ecosystem, as we already mentioned with the multi, shareholder approach. I think when we're talking about personally and individually what we can do, so that's looking at the ecosystem or the industry view. From a personal perspective, I think I would say to everyone, who can we sponsor? Who can we as individuals sponsor? And in turn, who could sponsor us? So how are we actually helping others and lifting them up? And even when we often think that we're not senior enough or don't have enough pull, there's so much we can do just in those people around us and help lift them up. So again, really believe in that. And then for anyone who's interested in femtech, obviously they can reach out to Femtech Association Asia. And also in India, there's a Femtech India. So an awesome group of women in India focusing on women's health and Femtech in India that I highly recommend that organization as well. So thanks for having me here today and lovely to meet all of you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Shivarti?
So I think for inclusion, it's very simple. In my opinion, it's a 2-sentence thing where women of merit should be heard. So if we keep merit as the core of everything, the value proposition always remains. So with the whole advent of inclusion and empathy and capability on a table, I think the perfect amalgamation is if merit is kept on the center table, a lot of questions goes answered. And with merit topped with the inherent biases being neutralized, is, I think, the best way to move forward in the current economy. And thank you once again. It was a pleasure to be a part of this very, very intriguing and amazing panel.
Thank you, Shivarti. Over to you, Sharon, for your final thoughts.
I think what we've heard and what's been shared are lots of tactical and lots of ideas around networks and around things where we look at how do we have that engagement to sort of like change ourselves. But I think for me, the biggest thing is around policy. And so for example, I shared that the fact that it was when Rachel Reeves came in, as Chancellor, you've got policy decisions, data-driven decisions. That's the only way that you're going to get change. Otherwise, we're going to keep talking about it for the next 50 years. So the key thing is around data-driven results. So when we can prove, and we can prove that, reports, Lindsay talked about the McKinsey report, we've got the information there, but then what's going to drive that change is policy. So what we need to do is the next bit of that is that we need to be champions. So we can't just be the doers, we need to be the leaders at government level with key stakeholders. So our voice is heard at that senior level, at that top level, so that then that change happens.
Thank you so much, Sharon. To sum it up, I think there were some absolutely great thoughts shared today. And like I mentioned before, empowering women cannot just be a moral imperative. They are the economic game changers, and we have to take cognizance of it. We know we are all multitaskers running businesses, families, and sometimes even nations. While we are still fighting for that lost socks, and working on a Zoom call. But trust me, we don't have to do it all. From this session today, my key takeaways would be championing inclusivity, like Lindsay and everybody else mentioned. It is completing that cycle, taking it forward, trying to support somebody. The goal, I would say, just isn't about breaking the glass ceiling. It is about creating a whole new house with a room for everybody. That would be my first takeaway. The next one would be to build a strong ecosystem where policies are made to make it more conducive for more women to enter workplaces, for more women to thrive in businesses, where we as women leaders can support and encourage more women and encourage the newer generation to foray into this exercise of being contributors to the economy. And my third one would be leveraging allies. Like we said, it's not just about women supporting women. It is important that we recognize that men can be a great allies for us as well. I think we should look at allies like a good Wi-Fi connection, to If we do not have good support system, we will be left buffering. So we need those allies to help us in moments where we think we would crash or even pick us up, when we've had that fall. So championing inclusivity, building positive ecosystems and leveraging allies should be something that we all work on. They say behind every woman is substantial amounts of coffee, in my case, chocolates even, and of course, a network of supporters who believe in her. Let's today be those supporters. Let's help lift more people, help build an ecosystem where women are responsible contributors. To wind up, in the words of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I'd say fight for the things that you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you. Thank you.
Thank you. Lovely meeting you. Have a good